Hey, welcome back. As we know, life is full of surprises, both good and bad. The day to day journey is full of unforeseen obstacles, and sometimes it's hard to see our way through. Beyond the normal mundane or where unscripted dreams live, join us for thought provoking discussions and interviews to help us navigate through the fog and create our own path. We are the Unscripted Dream podcast, operating outside the margins to motivate and inspire our audience. So, today's episode is literally called or titled as Victim Mentality. We'll dive right in. Victim mentality simply is when you believe you have no control over things that happen to you. I think we're all guilty or have been guilty of having a victimized mentality one way or another. Some on a macro level, others on micro. I want to get into signs of it, but I'm gonna let Marcus say his piece first.
Yeah. So I think this could be a touchy, a sensitive topic for some people.
Yeah.
So but that's all right. But I think I just initially thinking about it, lack of personal responsibility, right? And kind of ties into the episode we just recorded about giving away your power. So if you haven't listened to that, maybe go back and check that one out. But I just think initially, when you think about it, what good does it do you? Like anybody, as Joe starts to shoot off these points that I know he's going to think about and ask yourself, having this mentality, what tell me the positive that comes from it, please. And send us an email or something, or find me wherever I am, because I would like to know what there is to actually benefit from even thinking like this at all, and where it even helps you. But I guess those are my initial thoughts. Just getting started and diving into this. But Joe, I guess what do you have?
Well, here goes the signs of victim mentality. And I think, like I said, I'm pretty sure everybody has played their fair share or part or role into this. So here goes the signs of suffering from a victim mentality. You know, you're constantly blaming other people for feeling miserable. You possess a life is against me. So like everyone's out to get me type of mindset. You're cynical or pessimistic. That's a big one. You think that others are purposely trying to hurt you. You believe you're the only one being targeted for mistreatment. You keep reliving the past, painful memories that, some bad may have happened to you. And, you just use that as fuel to keep things kind of negative. Even when things go right, you always find something to complain about. That's a big one. You refuse to consider other perspectives when talking about your problems. So, in other words, you can't oversee or overlook the negative and everything.
But this is habitual engagement of these type of behaviors and thought patterns.
Right.
'Cause I'm definitely cynical and pessimistic sometimes. I'm also, yeah, sometimes there are people coming at you, but don't happen a lot. But yeah, man, sometimes people be
Well,
gunning for you,
what
but
about
not.
low self-esteem?
No, man, I don't have that. I don't suffer from that.
What about lack of empathy?
I have a lot of that.
What are you doing right now, bro? You know, that's helping to balance, right? That's helping to balance out, right? Giving back to people, right? Needing excessive attention. So you're an attention whore.
Really, really.
You never heard of people making up stuff just so, you know, saying
Oh,
awful
oh,
things
like
to
catfish.
them.
Oh, like catfish and stuff.
I mean, that's pretty extreme.
I've seen that. Now that you say that, all the catfish I used to watch, when they would meet the person, they would act like they were the one that was done wrong or something else like that. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Having people feel sorry for you and
yeah.
knowing
Okay,
that
yeah.
there's
I
probably
guess
nothing
okay.
wrong with you.
All right, fair
Um,
enough.
what about severe self-pity?
Oh yeah, that's a gimme, man. That's a given, man.
And, I think this one goes without explaining, but being, having anger issues, being irritated and agitated all the time. That's a big one too. Or just being a drama queen or a drama king. So these are the signs of victim mentality, man. I guess, like I said, we've all played our fair share in certain scenarios where we've overly victimized ourselves. And I would be the first to say that just because I feel like there's points or there's times where you feel like you've been wronged and it might have been more than fair. but the fact that it just didn't work out in your favor, unfortunately, you want to raise hell about the situation. Think about this one. How about the time where you got a parking ticket and you were saying that they're in the wrong because they gave you a parking ticket because it was only 1 minute after the scheduled time where you probably should have left that parking spot. So you feel like they were preying on your car the minute it hit 6 p.m. or the minute before it hit 6 p.m. Sorry, I
This
must
happened to
have.
you, Joe?
Oh yeah,
Same time? That time?
couple
Oh, okay.
couple times.
Yeah, real specific. It's just
And
very
then
specific.
and then you go and you try to fight the ticket thinking that, that you could win. So you may raise enough hell to the point where they're like, you know what? We don't want to go through this. So we're just gonna cancel it out. That works sometimes, but in bigger cities, not so much. They don't care. They got other bigger things to worry about. But I'm just saying, like, there's petty things like that where you were in the wrong clearly, but you want to say, I wasn't in the wrong, but okay, what were the specific guidelines? Do you see this? It doesn't matter if they were preying on your vehicle or not. There's a specific rule, a hard guideline that you did not follow, and yet you still gonna complain about what's happened to you.
So there's I'm a make a hard right turn here.
Okay, so we
But
turn on another
yeah,
block.
yeah, we kind
Got
of
you.
yeah. So
Yeah, let's
so
spin the block right quick.
so some aspects of just having that the mentality that someone's out to get you all the time, all the time, or there's like you're maybe you feel like you're owed something all the time, where you can't get ahead because of A, B, and C scenarios, or these particular sets of people might not like you, or you're not welcome in certain places, and you just get upset about these things. And you feel like you can't get a win out here. So some things that y'all might disagree with me on this, or just not even give any input. But there's a lot of systemically, there's a lot of systems that are designed to keep you in that mindset because it's extremely unproductive. It's a very unproductive place to be mentally.
Yep.
So if you're familiar with psychological warfare, it's designed to keep you down and to keep you out of it. So it's like people ask me, like people will try to tell me, I don't know if we talked about this, but I mean, I know, Jonah, you talked about this, but like these slave movies, I'm not watching those movies. For what? If
Depressing.
not, if not entertaining, it's just not entertaining. Like, why would I want to watch that? Like, just send me the documentary. I'll educate myself. I'll read a book, but I'm not watching that for entertainment. Like, I'm
Right.
watching it for education, maybe, but it doesn't entertain me. So, and then sometimes people will watch these things and it creates, like, it strengthens your anger. It like solidifies your aggression. And then you're like very unproductive in certain pockets because you can't get anything done because you're mad all the time. And you kind of feed that cycle. Like you can kind of get in a situation where you kind of feed that cycle. Like you go looking for what happened to this person today. Oh, there's a storyline with this going on or stuff like that. And you just go and you seek it. Like you seek these things and you just maintain that mentality because you're not creating any scenarios or positioning yourself in any positions where there's an alternative. Like everything for you is negative. It's a form of oppression if someone's like making you the victim or something like that. And that's psychologically, I believe there's things that are designed that we're exposed to that they just push that message out. And it's something I think you have to be to think about if you look into psychological warfare. It eats at you from the inside. You don't know it's happening. Like you really don't know it's happening. But you watching if you hang out here long enough, you figure out and some of that stuff just instantly be like, man, that's kind of right on schedule. I see some stuff, I'll be like, well, and then once you stop paying attention to it, and then you can actually pivot and kind of pay attention to some other things, you see that there's actually maybe a balance, but that the scales tilt to where you spend your energy at. So I think that that's something that when you're falling into these traps, you have to be mindful of what you expose yourself to. And sometimes it's just people, but sometimes it's the entertainment, the things we listen to and the things we consume that stuff can get in our heads. So you kind of have to guard your mind too against this stuff, against people, against the news, the things that you watch, how you think of stuff that isn't entirely accurate. So
Absolutely, man. You got to educate yourself. Actually, that's one of the key factors I was going to list as far as like steps to, you know, leave behind the victimized mentality. You got to educate yourself. And that's one right there. People don't know that they've been brainwashed, or there's certain things that you probably shouldn't watch or familiarize yourself with prior to doing certain acts. Like, what's a good example? Say that you're watching, I guess, a commercial or whatnot about, like those insurance commercials where the dude be crashing or whatever. And then,
Mayhem. Mayhem. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so do you think it's smart to intentionally drink and watch commercial like that? You know what I'm saying? So, you might be influenced to go out to, do that. You get what I'm saying? You may not, you may know better, but if you're like a teenager or a kid, you may be like, hey, why not try doing this? You know what I'm saying? You might be influenced by that. Another perfect example that I could relate to, because this was part of my childhood and growing up, was if you listen to the rapper Eminem. He was saying outlandish things about what he was doing or whatnot. He really wasn't doing it. It was all sarcasm. But as a kid, you may not pick up on that, and you may harbor some of those thoughts to the point where it messes you up mentally. You know what I'm saying? And then that's why the parents came after him, or tried to, because they didn't put enough boundaries around their kids getting exposed to that type of music and what he was doing there. I consider him more so like a comedian rapper. But what I'm trying to say is, you can easily be influenced by society and some of the things that are out there if you don't educate yourself.
I think what's weird about that is that people will sometimes complain about music, but then we watch all these movies with all this violence in it, and it's pretty ridiculous. But anyway,
Listen, man, don't be mad at, don't blame the schools or anything. If you're gonna blame anybody, blame yourself, because I know when 10 o'clock hits on cable TV, you can go to freaking Comedy Central or FX, and you're gonna hear them drop F bombs openly. At that point, that's on you.
I'm a long way. I'm a long way in TV. But
Well, I'm here to tell you that TV now, after a certain time, the way they talk is uncensored.
get loose. TV get loose, I guess, a little bit later. But you see people, you can't, like I said, you can't put the blame on everybody. I know this a hot topic, it's a hot one, these student loans, right? But if you listen to my old episodes, I'm kind of always taking accountability for the position that I got myself in, even though I was very young and didn't know any better. But it's so you take these things that are like unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate that you were a victim of like a predatory situation, circumstance that you just didn't know. But like once you say, okay, I understand what happened here. How do I ensure that it doesn't happen again? And what do I have to do to get myself out of this situation? And it really gives you, like, it gives you at that point when you kind of step out from being a victim, because life isn't fair. It's not. If the thing gets paid off or something, or if there's something like somebody's gonna be mad because they paid off their loans. If you give 10 people a can of soup, one person's gonna be mad they didn't get a can. All right. So it's always gonna be somebody that's upset. And there's too many people in the world for everybody to be happy with every single situation that is made. Somebody's always gonna get slighted. And I think it's up to us to make the decision. Well, if you're in a decision, like say with the student loans, we know what happened. We didn't know. We went to school and like just the interest hit, the money was easy. And then you on the back end, years later, you're like, man, that's a bad decision. But now you're equipped with a different set of knowledge through experience. So it doesn't have to happen again. And you're in a position where you can tell other people and educate them. But also now you're in a position where it's like, hey, well, maybe I need to do something a little bit different or move another way. So this
Right.
doesn't happen to me again. It doesn't happen again. But when you say, "Oh, man, they did me wrong. They always after me," like, and all this other stuff, like, man, it just happened, and now we kinda have to deal with the consequences of it, and I don't know if I would want that, whatever. I don't know, I know it's, like, some political stuff going on, but I don't even want it anyway. Whatever it is, I'd be like, "What? No, because you're probably gonna come back a few years later and say, I gotta take, like, some experimental drug or something because I took that much." So I'm like, "I'm good. I handle it myself. No, thank you." You know what I'm saying? But I think that if we approached it that way, then we would spend more time working in the solution and trying to find a way to get out of it. And then maybe through us finding a solution, we're able to kind of help other people deal with it too and create alternatives too for education. So it's like we stop feeling sorry for ourselves and like actually try to do something about it, because feeling sorry for yourself doesn't help anybody. It really doesn't. It does nothing. It actually depresses the people that are around you too. If you're somebody listening to this who kind of has this attitude, but
Yeah, if you struggle with that, please go see a professional.
yeah, just in the budget, just in the budget. But I think the last thing I said, Joe, I'll let you say whatever you got after this. But the last thing I say is if like we're all living, if you're listening to this, you're living on the earth. You know, what I'm saying like you're living here, and regardless of your circumstance, where you're from, what you look like, there's one thing that we all have in common that we all have access to, and that's time. We all have it. If we're alive and we're breathing, we have it. So what you do at that time is what matters. So if you're feeling sorry for yourself, you're down. Think about how much time you spend just in the dumps, complaining, unhappy, and what you could do at that time if you just say, I'm gonna spend a little bit of time just working in the other direction, a little bit of time, and just see what that grows into. But you can choose to work yourself out of a situation, and there's always going to be somebody who's ahead of somebody else. There's always going to be somebody who had a certain set of privileges or somebody that they had different opportunities that you weren't exposed to and things like that. But there's nothing we can do. Like, there's nothing you can do about that except create opportunity for yourself. You want to be mad for it if somebody they, they knew somebody at the golf club and they got this position. They don't really do anything all day. They're making six figures or something. They're living good. All right. Good for them. Now I need to go do my thing. Can't be mad at them, because if somebody else got that position, they just chilling, kicking back. You wouldn't want anybody coming at you trying to take your spot, right? So it's just, I think it's just one of those things where our energy just needs to be in the right place, and spending time blaming other people for things or waiting for other people to, like, man, people waiting for like their representative to do something for them. I'm like, why you got to live your life where you got to depend on these people to do things for you? Why can't you be on the other side where it's like, well, maybe I can influence who's in the office instead of just waiting to see who gets elected, and then you got to kind of deal with it. There's people who can maneuver all around that. Like, it doesn't even really impact them, and the things that change are in their favor. So if someone's living in that reality, why can't you live in that reality where you had that level of influence instead of being on the receiving end of something and just always waiting for somebody else to make decisions about how your life goes? There's a lot more in us than what I think collectively we think we have. And if we can step away from being the victim and always feeling like someone's out to get us, like, we can actually create something pretty special. But it's not going to be everybody. It's going to be a small group of people that do it, because a lot of people just stuck in, they just lost in the sauce. Man. That's for them.
Yep.
But I'll close on that, Joe.
No, man, that was well said. If I could give you a round of applause right now, I definitely will. Yeah, man, kudos to that. So when I'm just gonna end on a high note. Well, a high note as far as like what you need to look at. You listen to these episodes as far as like how well you're talking about the problem. Do you have any solutions for me then, fool? So we got the solutions to this point. So the first step would be when Marcus was talking about taking responsibility for your actions. That's a big one right there, man. You know what I'm saying? When I was talking about the parking ticket, I'm speaking from my own experience that,
But I mean,
I have a lot of experiences, but I feel like that one was probably more relatable to the masses. And honestly, man, you gotta take responsibility for your actions, man. Nobody told you to any of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you knew what you needed to do. You knew what the chances. You knew the chances you were taking. You knew the stakes. So when it doesn't work out in your favor, you know what I'm saying? You took that gamble. You lost. So you know what I'm saying? Wear that L proudly. So manipulation, it may work out sometimes, but it's not always going to work in your favor. Sometimes it'll just get you in more trouble than you can get out of. So just know that. Anytime you hold grudges, man, you know what I'm saying? That's another way to stop playing victim, man. Let that stuff go. Stop holding grudges, cuz grudges really ain't going to do anything but diminish the other person. It's not going to do anything to diminish the other person, or a group of people or whoever it is that you have a grudge against. Like, but it can wreak havoc on your own life. You know what I'm saying? That extra grief, you know what I'm saying, is probably why you're uptight and probably impacted by the other things of the reason why you have a victim mentality. Whether someone like hurt your feelings like 10 years ago or whatever, holding that grudge allows that person to pretty much, take up more space than they need to in your brain. So you got to learn to let that go, man. I think the next one is have some compassion for yourself. I'm not gonna go into grave detail about that, but have some compassion for yourself, man. Put yourself in check. You know what I'm saying? There's no way around it. I would say the next one would be know when to say no. You know, such and such didn't make you do it. You chose to do it right along with them. I don't care how much influence they have over you or how much influence you think they have over you. If you did it, you did it. Own up to it. Next one would be educating yourself. We already talked about that. I even gave you a good reference as far as like the whole Eminem story where I started to go on a rant a little bit. But educate yourself, man. Know what you're dealing with. Know what you're up against. Know what's going on before you put yourself in a bad situation. Or you may potentially have a negative impact or some type of influence on mischievous behavior on people that look up to you. You know what I'm saying? Know the energy you put out there. Know what kind of things you allow happen on your watch when you're looking out for other people. That's why leadership is so important and so important. You know what I'm saying? You gotta know what you're talking about. You gotta educate yourself because you can easily lead the wrong people down the wrong path. You you get what I'm saying? I think the last one, of course, is talking to a professional, man. Sometimes we may not have the right people around us to really like put us in these positions and actually challenge our level of thought. You know what I'm saying? I could give you a good example with my father. You know what I'm saying? Like, say that I might have a bad day or something like that. He'll definitely stop me in my tracks and be like, "You haven't said anything positive. Say one thing that's positive today. One." And some days it may be hard for me to say something. Other days, you know what I'm saying? It rolls right off my tongue. And he's like, see, you control that. That's all on you. So, you need to take accountability for your train of thought. If you're surrounded by horror flicks, like if that's your thing, you like watching 48 hours and all them crime shows and stuff like that. You like hanging around people that listen to music that's definitely bad for your health if you're trying to outlive those acts that they're probably lying about that they're doing. So it's just stuff like that, man, that indirectly hits you. That's why we go back to educating yourself, knowing that, this is all entertainment and this is not necessarily something that may be as real as you may think or portrayed to be real. So it's just stuff like that, man. Just realizing that you might be around people that have that same mentality. You know what I'm saying? And that stuff rubs off on you. People's mindsets and people's energy rubs off on you just as bad as that chicken, when you go into a fried chicken joint and you get that smell in your jacket or clothes. That's how bad negative energy like rubs off on you. Better example, when you're somewhere around somebody that smokes cigarettes, you know how you get that cigarette or cigar smoke stuck in your clothes? That's how that stuff rubs off on you in your brain internally. So you really have to be very protective of what you hear and how you comprehend things. So those are some of the steps or all the steps I have for you today, as far as trying to monitor the negativity and the victim mentality or the victimized mentality that you may be harboring. So if you identify with some of this stuff and know that you unintentionally may be perceived that way, or you honestly may actually feel that way, that someone's out to get you and stuff like that, then you need to really do some kind of soul search. Like, if you really feel that way, why am I in a position where I have to feel that way? And then you start from there as far as how you can get away from that and how you can harbor good thoughts and you can be in a place where you will have a more peaceful state of mind. So I'm gonna get up off this mic here, man. But hopefully you guys learned something from this and hopefully you got some good chuckles out of this. All right, man. Take care. Be safe.